Welcome, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Delphi Award Speaker Series here at the University of Arizona. Today, we will be hearing about the topic of highlighting innovations in teaching and support for the career track faculty. The Delphi Speaker Series is a series that is being offered at the University of Arizona following our receiving the 2023 Delphi Award for Transformative Support of Career Track Faculty. The Speaker Series, made possible by the Delphi Award, is a collaborative effort between the U of A Career Track Faculty Working Group and Faculty Affairs. The purpose of this speaker series is to share insights and best practices for the teaching and support of our career track faculty. I'd now like to introduce our Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, Dr. Andrea Romero.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you to everyone who's joining us here today. We're so excited to start this speaker series that will focus on the career track faculty model that we've built here together over many years at the University of Arizona, with help from many of you who are on the call today and many people that have been here previously in a variety of roles. So it's taken a lot of work to build something that really provides a lot more respect, dignity, stability, for our faculty who do a lot of focus on teaching, research, or clinical activities. And so we're so glad that we're able to talk about it, share this. It's been recognized by the Delphi Award. And we know this is just the beginning. There's a lot more work ahead of us to do in this area to make even more strides. But we're also excited to see that we've been able to share the work and the progress we've made here at U of A with other institutions who are now looking to us for ways forward to create a similar type of models. So I think if we can share the slides, I believe we have our land acknowledgement video to share with you. We're really excited that all the work that Native American Initiatives has put into this in collaboration with the 22 federally recognized tribes has led to not only a land acknowledgement statement, but now this beautiful video to portray the message. So.
The University of Arizona is on the land and territories of indigenous people.
And today, Arizona is home to 22
federally recognized tribes,
with Tucson being home
to the O'odham and the Yaqui.
There's someone that's going to share the slides and the
Committed
video.
to diversity and inclusion.
Committed to diversity and inclusion.
The university strives to build sustainable relationships
with sovereign Native nations.
And indigenous communities.
through educational offerings,
Partnership and community service.
I'd like to now, just before we begin from our speaker, just a few reminders about online events. That one is we'd like to ask, if possible, and you're willing to keep your cameras on. We love to see all of your wonderful faces, and our speaker. It helps our speaker as well to join in and realize our community is here. So as well, we always like to remind you to smile, that you're on camera, that we're recording this event for other individuals that might not be able to join us today. Please, at all times, keep your microphone muted unless we're asking you to speak, maybe during the Q&A. Your questions are welcome, that we will have our Q&A after our speaker for allowing him to respond to your questions. And if you're having any tech trouble, please share that. I'm seeing a note that we can't see the box. You're not able to see the slides. That if you're having tech trouble, put it in the box. I'm just seeing in chat Hopefully everyone is able to, can't see the slides. I'm trying to figure out why. That we're showing shared that, Tara, are you able to see the slides just to make sure we're not doing it? I can see them. Okay, I'm getting a number of folks that are telling me we can't see them. So very good. If you're having other tech troubles, please put those in chat and we'll follow up with you individually. But most importantly, we'd like to ask that you just enjoy today's conversation. With that, it is my honor to introduce today's invited speaker, Dr. Jordan Harper. Dr. Harper received his PhD from the University of Southern California, the Rossier School of Education, and he is now an assistant professor at Morgan State University with appointments in the Department of Advanced Studies, Leadership and Policy, and the School of Education and Urban Studies. Dr. Harper is also a research associate for the Delphi project, The Changing Faculty and Student Success, housed at the University of Southern California. His research focuses on organization and administration of colleges and universities, specifically studying leadership, work and labor, and organizational change in higher education. Dr. Harper has published extensively, and that he has published recently a book on higher education leadership, the challenging tradition and forging possibilities. With that introduction, it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jordan Harper. Dr. Harper.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to be in community with you all virtually. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. I'm just really excited to see all the amazing faces here, names and faces. And thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day. Hopefully you learned something new. Thank you, Bill, for the introduction. So again, Jordan Harper, assistant professor at Morgan State University. And I'm also a research associate for the Delphi project at the University of Southern California in the Pullias Center for Higher Education. So I have had the distinct pleasure to, hear about all the amazing work that University of Arizona has been doing. And I'll talk a little bit more about my involvement in the Delphi project, but again, it's just really an honor to be here and share space with you all. So this is the agenda to kind of set our time together today. So I want to start off by kind of setting the stage a little bit. So I want us to kind of come together and have a shared understanding of language. I'll use kind of different terms throughout. So just, to have an understanding of where I'm coming from with that. And then I'm going to go over some kind of current and contemporary data or even historical data about faculty off the tenure track. So again, we can kind of situate where we are in this current moment. And then I want to take some time and dispel some myths about faculty off the tenure track. I think, sometimes we have this understanding of what it means to be faculty off the tenure track, how we arrive to it and such. And I just want to take some time to dispel those myths to really, again, set the stage for us today. And then I'll close that section by talking about the work at the Pullias Center and the work of the Delphi project. And then I'll transition into some trends and support and best practices. So I'll go over some observations from the past 12 years of the Delphi project. We've been around for 12 years, so we've seen a lot of different things. So I'll give you some insight there. And then I'm going to walk you all through some lessons from Delphi recognized campuses. Many of you in the room know the amazing work that, University of Arizona has done, but maybe some of you are unfamiliar with the work that other campuses have done. So I really want to take some time and show you all a couple of things that we've just been seeing over the last couple of years and that we've recognized through the Delphi Award. And then I'll take some time to talk about both challenges and future considerations for work to develop transformative support for career track faculty. And then I'll just close with some concluding remarks and then open the floor for some Q&A. All right, so we at the Pullias Center use this term vital faculty. And vital faculty stands for visiting instructor, temporary adjunct, and lecturer. And then some places and spaces, they use TA in there as well to kind of recognize the graduate students on our campuses that also do this work on a contingent kind of basis. But we use this term in the Puglia Center to describe those faculty off the tenure track. So again, that's inclusive of part-time, full-time, and even other temporary workers who might be a visiting assistant professor or something of that vein. And it's an asset-based term. So it's meant to capture those faculty who are tied to contracts as opposed to the security net of tenure. So institutions like you all at University of Arizona use the term or the phrase career track. And then even at institutions like George Mason, for example, they use term faculty. These phrases, no matter kind of what you name them, they're really kind of meant to reprofessionalize a role that has become increasingly deprofessionalized over the last couple of years. But overall, we really try to avoid the term non-tenure track faculty. I know when I first started doing this work, it was kind of the term. We didn't really have anything else to use. It was the best way to kind of like capture everything and everybody that was not protected by tenure. But we really avoid this term now, A, because we have new language, but also B, because we don't want to identify and describe faculty based on what they are not. So we just had this other term that we use, vital faculty, which we feel is another term that fully encompass all of the amazing faculty that are off the tenure track at institutions across the country. So I want to start with this snapshot of the current moment. So give you some data to really sit with. So the big question here is like, what do we know about the current plight and even makeup of vital faculty? So the most recent data from the AAUP shows that almost 70% of all faculty across colleges and universities in the US are vital faculty who do not have tenure supports. So if we break that down even more, of that 68%, 48.2% are part-time contingent faculty. So, campuses often kind of name them adjunct faculty. Almost 13% are full-time off the tenure track, and 6.6 are part of colleges and universities that just don't have tenure systems to begin with. So this is really a far cry from where we once were. Tenure has been on a steep decline for decades, going back to at least the 1980s, where over half of the faculty at that time were tenured or in tenure eligible positions. So it was somewhere around 52%. So nowadays, vital faculty are the new majority, which, obviously necessitates some new supports and new professionalization tracks. Also, if we look at this from a point of view of race and gender, more women and people of color can be found in vital faculty positions as opposed to tenure track positions. Tenure track positions are still historically reserved for white men, wealthy white men that come from middle or upper middle class. Because they can be found in these particular positions, right? It might suggest that vital faculty and the issues that they face actually have a lot to do with racial and gender inequities. And then also across U.S. higher education, we really trended again towards more vital faculty than tenure track faculty for a couple of different reasons. So this can be kind of traced back to a couple of different things. For instance, there's been substantial public underfunding of higher education, which, causes institutions to seek ways to cut costs or kind of get, interesting in the way that they use their money. And we can even think about right-wing attacks on higher education and how they've kind of sought to place less emphasis on the educational functions of higher education, like teaching, which in some ways has also eroded or challenged tenure or even academic freedom more broadly. So the current moment shows us that the face of faculty across the nation is really changing, and there's a kind of clear and urgent need for transformative supports for vital faculty. And again, I've already presented this as an equity issue, but it's also a student success issue. So I want to take some time and, think about debunking some myths about vital faculty. The current moment really necessitates that we dispel these myths about vital faculty that, again, are sometimes antiquated. They may be problematic of sorts, and they may attempt to position contingency as a kind of personal and individual choice and not really a systemic issue. So the first myth is that faculty choose precarity. It may sound like, to people in this room, you may be like, oh, that doesn't really make sense, but you'd be surprised. Some people actually believe that. And what I say to that is no one willingly desires to be in a work situation where there's a lack of security or support. Faculty that I've talked to in my research and broadly in the research of the Puglia Center, they often talk about how precarity has kind of hit the tip of the iceberg, and it is more observable and felt nowadays than ever before. And there's a shift in these faculty and what these faculty are facing and hoping that their institutions respond in ways that center their needs. So the second myth is that most adjuncts work full time and then pick up a class when possible. So long gone are the days when faculty just pick up a class in the evening or so, maybe for some extra money, maybe to just kind of connect with students in a way that their full-time job during the day doesn't really allow them to do. And in our research in the Puglia Center, we frequently see and hear from people who are working part-time at multiple universities. So they're trying to kind of piece together this livable wage in a way. And they do this without, a lot of times access to benefits, just instructional or pedagogical supports. So they're really kind of working really hard to make ends meet, but not really getting the support that they need. And then another myth is that faculty as professionals are internally motivated by, this calling to teach, right? So because of that, this external motivation doesn't matter since faculty will perform whether they are supported or not. And again, that's a myth, right? And the data really points to this as a myth. And it suggests that faculty entering the profession today are willing to leave academia, leave higher education, if they are not provided with support, a career track, or even work-life balance. And as a result, we really started to see more turnover in the faculty ranks in recent years. Also, vital faculty are not afforded, the same rights and privileges as tenure-line faculty at many institutions. Not only do vital faculty not receive tenure, but they also barely have access to instructional supports. They're excluded from shared governance, different structures and even department meetings, and they have very limited access to professional development and professional development funds. And, this again is an issue of equity that also has great implications on student success. And then the last myth is that most colleges and universities have vital faculty supports in place. Again, they do not. Most do not. There are definitely exceptions, like you all and like some other institutions that we recognize through the Delphi Project, which, really kind of shows how important the work that the Delphi Project is doing to really uplift the work that so many institutions are doing in these kind of different pockets, because it just isn't the norm across colleges and universities in the country, but it should be the norm. So in the Puglia Center for Higher Education, we're all about promoting and advancing equity in higher education. So the Delphi Project sits amongst a lot of different lines that the Puglia Center really tries to explore. We're thinking about equity in the student experience. We're thinking about equity in, just institutional supports and structures. And the Delphi Project and the Changing Faculty and Student Success allows us this lane to focus on equity for faculty off the tenure track. Because at the time of inception, there was just little to no research about it and no kind of attention paid to it. So the Delphi Project really exists to enhance awareness about the changing faculty and these trends, using research and data to better support faculty off the tenure track and to really help create these new faculty models to support higher education institutions, both now and in the future. So our goal in everything that we do under this project is ultimately to create a better understanding of vital faculty working conditions and the implications for student learning towards promoting change. So that's why here in this picture, you see we're trying to support faculty, we're trying to help institutions, and we're trying to improve success. And all those things are really intertwined, and we see them as really connected. So the Delphi Project has been around since 2012. It's an existing kind of lane that we at the Puglia Center have really been doing, but it's still kind of relatively new in a way. And one of the most significant initiatives within the project is the Delphi Award, which again, University of Arizona has received, is kind of helping to advance this really exciting series that we're doing here. And that is a $15,000 cash award given to institutions that have demonstrated scalable and institutionalized supports for vital faculty, especially those supports that are concerned with ameliorating issues facing vital faculty and impeding student success as a result. So that's kind of 2012. Delphi Project is born. 2018 is when the award was kind of birthed, from support from a lot of our funders, including TIAA, the Carnegie Foundation, Sloan Foundation, and so on. And since then, the Puglia Center and the Delphi Project, in collaboration with the American Association of Colleges and Universities, have presented a total of $210,000 to our winning institutions. And we've learned a great deal about what is happening on campuses from winners, finalists, and applicants. So, me having been a part of the Delphi Award review process and even the dissemination of the amazing work that's happening on campuses, having been part of that since the very beginning, I have been able to kind of glean some important trends that I've kind of held internally and never really shared out loud, but here I am sharing it with you all. But these are some really important trends that are relevant to our conversation here today. But I also, state them to really kind of understand the state of vital faculty supports and how they've kind of changed over the years. So before I kind of go into some of this, I also want to name that the award itself has expanded, and I guess competition for the award has also expanded. When we first started, we might have gotten 10 universities, 10 colleges or universities, maybe. That was like tops. And now 20 plus, right? So we've been able to see an amazing kind of this cohort of sorts of different institutions doing this amazing work. So from 2012 to 2019, which includes those first 2 years of the Delphi Project, so 2018, 2019, and also research that we were able to kind of collect and understand and, synthesize from 2012 and onward. We primarily saw the inclusion or integration of vital faculty into existing teaching supports. So I want to emphasize the teaching supports. That was the thing that we were really seeing for a long time. So most of our applicants were including vital faculty into professional development and pedagogical supports that were historically exclusive to tenure-line faculty. So we kind of saw this opening of the door to adjuncts and other contingent faculty to take part in these particular events on campus or initiatives on campus. And we would even see, and at the time, it was pretty much like, okay, we would do this thing at this particular time, but we recognize that our adjuncts really only work in the evening, so maybe we might do evening supports, right? And that's kind of what the inclusion really looked like. But we also saw quite a few institutions creating adjunct orientations and even onboarding processes to acclimate vital faculty into campus life. At the time, there were some ideas around new policies that campuses were toying with, but those policies weren't necessarily designed or implemented. They were just kind of ideas that they might have had. And the supports that were emerging during that time were kind of sporadic or episodic. And campuses weren't yet really thinking systemically about vital faculty issues or solutions. Again, it was all about this kind of teaching, not really about work-life balance, workload, livelihoods. We just weren't really thinking in that way for a very long time. And then since 2020, we've seen a shift towards creating transformational supports for vital faculty's professionalization and their well-being. So these supports have really moved beyond teaching and pedagogy, even though they're still inclusive of teaching and pedagogy. But they really move towards more systemic solutions, such as new policies and promotion tracks. There's also been a greater focus on pay equity and parity, which we just weren't seeing much of between 2012 and 2019. And we've also witnessed some more strategic action and collaboration across campuses. In particular, we've really seen a lot around collaborations with contingent faculty unions, which was a really big thing that we started to see in recent years. And there's also much more focus on the change process itself. So we had campuses that were being very forthright and kind of just clear in how they were able to get the work done on a systemic way, which enabled us to then share out other institutions' change processes as well, in efforts to really advance those supports. Most of our winning and finalist campuses in recent years have done things like, careful internal research on vital faculty issues. So just a lot of, talking with vital faculty, whether it be focus groups, individual interviews, kind of anecdotally. There's been a lot more kind of outlined clear visions around what they want, vital faculty to experience on their campus. And also specific goals with specific timelines, which again was just something we weren't seeing for such a long time. And this shift, for me at least, really signals a commitment from institutions to address vital faculty issues in this kind of systemic way. They're also doing this amazing work to create a culture of respect and professionalization for these individuals, and also even acknowledging that their labor is invaluable to the success of all students, especially when we think about trends and how many, vital faculty may exist on our campus in comparison to maybe a few decades ago. So for the next few slides, I want to walk through some lessons learned from some campuses that have been recognized as winners or finalists of the Delphi Project over the last few years. And I really do this to show folks in the room that there are many different ways to support faculty off the tenure track. And I also show this to really help you all kind of observe through, I guess, campus case studies of sorts, these trends in real time that I just talked about and, what they look like in different campus contexts. So we'll start off here with Santa Monica College. So we recognized Santa Monica College in 2019 as one of 2 Delphi Award winners. At the time, Santa Monica College, which is a community college in California, had over 50% of its faculty as part-time adjuncts. They were seeking to really formalize and institutionalize approaches to recognize those part-time faculty members in an effort to best support, again, student learning and success. So they were really connecting these two. And they did this in a couple of different ways through a couple of different supports. So first, they created an orientation exclusive for adjuncts called Adjunct 411. And the benefit of the orientation had 3 parts. First, it really served to or it served as a chance for newer contingent faculty to ask questions. It also communicated, or it was a way for them to communicate key messages about rights, responsibilities, and resources for contingent faculty in particular. And then it served as an opportunity for contingent faculty to meet and connect with each other to build community. Because one of the things that became abundantly clear is that, we had to, or they had to kind of develop these spaces to build community, because part-time adjuncts were kind of coming in, coming out. They were going all these different places. They would just go to class. They didn't have office space. So they really tried to create this space to develop those relationships that will be pivotal to things like retention and student success. So Santa Monica was sure to include key presentations in their orientation, such as presentations from HR and even enrollment management. But they also didn't just stop at Adjunct 411, but they also decided to create a contingent faculty mentorship program. So this kind of formal process matched a veteran adjunct with a newer adjunct as a way to, again, build this community, but also build reciprocal relationships where both parties kind of felt like there was an opportunity to feel a sense of connectedness to the institution by way of mentoring someone and even being a mentee. Adjuncts at Santa Monica also vocalized their frustrations with the lack of professional development opportunities that they had or didn't have at the campus. So in response, the college actually designed an annual Spring Flex Day. So the Flex Day was an all-day professional development event for Santa Monica College faculty and staff, with concurrent sessions and various topics relevant to contingent faculty. So I remember reading this at the time and I was like, oh, this is such an amazing kind of like thing to think about, right, for different campuses to do. And there were topics that were so relevant to contingent faculty and even kind of getting them to maybe perhaps move on to different experiences or get more full-time positions. So they had things like how to write an effective resume and cover letter when applying to full-time lecturing positions at the school, or even stress management and alternative pedagogical practices. And the beautiful thing about this was that classes were canceled for students on flex day. So everyone was able to show up to the extent that they could, which, you know, to us at the time really signaled Santa Monica College's commitment to professional development for their instructors and developing these supports for adjunct faculty. So this year, we awarded the University of Delaware as a finalist for the Delphi Award. And we were particularly excited to award Delaware, or to recognize Delaware, but more specifically the continuing track faculty caucus. You know, we were excited to get them the finalist designation because it shows that there's power and potential of grassroots efforts to advance change for vital faculty. And you know, one of the things that we always try to do when we're reviewing for the Delphi Award is like uplifting these different ways that campuses are doing different things to advance supports for vital faculty. And this was like a really just interesting one that we hadn't seen before. So the Continuing Track Faculty Caucus was formed in 2016 to represent an increasing percentage of vital faculty and to promote a fair and equitable work environment, advocate on behalf of continuing track faculty and even students, and to collaborate with other groups and caucuses on issues of common concern. As a grassroots organization, the caucus really leverages its collective voice in service of change, while also equipping its members to lead institutional change individually through their campus environment or campus involvement in shared governance and even in their daily roles. So what was particularly powerful about what was happening at the University of Delaware in this caucus was that they were deeply, and when I say deeply, I mean deeply involved in advocacy efforts. So they were developing these kind of grassroots reports and briefs that really shed light on the continuing track faculty issues that individuals are facing, and even how they impact student success. And then there was this kind of bridge between this grassroots effort, the Continuing Track Faculty Caucus, with the Faculty Senate. So they were building this kind of bridge and making sure that their advocacy efforts were kind of influencing policy in the Faculty Senate. So there was this like really nice relationship between the caucus and the Faculty Senate. And you know, it was a way for them to kind of work together to advance change. They also host things like workshops independently and even in collaboration with others across campus. So for instance, the caucus offers this winter kind of promotion dossier development challenge that provides advice, discussions, examples, and the opportunity for dedicated quiet time to work, which we can all really benefit from sometimes. And, you know, they also connected pre-promotion continuing track faculty with those continuing track faculty that have already kind of gone through the promotion process as this kind of informal mentorship opportunity. And they even have this wonderful informational website where they track important communication. You can find meeting minutes there and provide these kind of news and updates relevant to the lives and livelihoods of continuing track faculty at Delaware. And then the caucus was also led democratically, which was nice, where they hosted open elections, and it gave continuing track faculty opportunities for leadership that they may not be able to find in other spaces within the university. So we were really excited to uplift their work because it was so different, and we saw this to be a nice kind of a promising thing for other institutions and faculty on the ground to pick up. And then one of the winners from this year was a finalist from 2023, actually, which was the University of Massachusetts Amherst. So Amherst advanced a distinct model unique to their campus and faculty needs. So they start with this kind of core belief shared by faculties, leaders, and unions, because they're in a unionized environment, that strong working conditions are necessary for the institution to thrive, which means there must be a strong focus on vital faculty who have historically experienced a range of inequities within the university. So to address these issues meaningfully and systemically, they recognize how important collaborative partnerships were, which can and should lead to new policies, programs, practices, and resources for vital faculty. And then the outcome for this kind of process and this model is improved working conditions, faculty retention, and student success. So some examples of some policies and practices included, salary parity between part-time and full-time lecturers, which we found to be interesting. So part-time temporary lecturers were paid per course at a rate equivalent to 25% of the base salary of a full-time lecturer for a semester. So that's a mouthful, but it's a way for them to, again, get at salary parity, which we thought was really promising. And the kind of equal pay model really ultimately prevents, the unfair practice of hiring part-time faculty as a cheaper substitute for full-time lecturers, while still offering, this flexibility to meet the university's instructional demands and even vital faculty desires. And the institution also began offering paid leaves to vital faculty for professional improvement. So very similar to what us tenure track or tenure line faculty know as sabbaticals. So that was a really nice addition to their supports. However, the paid leave program was competitive and it still remains competitive, with only 12 leaves awarded annually. But the vital faculty that participated in the program have kind of sung its praises, and they were able to really articulate the benefits on their professional careers and their pedagogical growth. And then, of course, the amazing work that this wonderful institution is doing, the University of Arizona, who received the Delphi Award last year, has really been doing great work around these systemic supports for faculty off the tenure track. So, this careful focus on appointment, advancement, and retention really kind of signals a commitment to not only supporting faculty off the tenure track, but making sure that they feel a sense of belonging and truly feel part of the present and even the future of the university, which is really nice. And, us at the Pulliam Center and the Delphi Award kind of review committee, we really see it as, or see the University of Arizona as a possibility model for so many campuses nationwide who are really interested in doing something about vital faculty, but wanting to do it in a systemic way. So it's embedded into institutional cultures. So as I move towards the back half in these last couple of minutes, I do want to take time to recognize, name, and even perhaps interrogate some perceived challenges for scaling and institutionalizing systemic supports for vital faculty. So across the country, colleges and universities are being faced with financial issues and crises that seek to upend or even challenge kind of equitable progress on various fronts. I have heard many colleges and university leaders that are really struggling to figure out what to do with limited budgets. So while I surely don't want to minimize, fiscal issues that many institutions face, I do want to say that it's important to note that institutional budgets reflect priorities. So, if supporting vital faculty is a priority and there exists this kind of political will amongst leaders and even vital faculty themselves to address these inequities, then leaders really have to find ways to financially support and invest in such systemic supports. And, for the faculty in the room, it's imperative to kind of organize and push back against austerity measures, which hit vital faculty the hardest, demanding transparency and holding institutions accountable for their stated obligations for faculty, staff, and students. Another thing that we frequently see within the Delphi project in our kind of various research studies is that there are these kind of broad stroke issues, but then there's also these more unique idiosyncratic issues that are often attributed to different particularities or circumstances at a department or school level. So, for example, you might find at your institution that vital faculty in the School of Education feel really respected and included, they feel a part. While vital faculty in the School of Health Sciences might feel overworked, disposable, underpaid, disrespected in some ways. So it's going to be really important for us to start thinking about what's happening, within these particular pockets within the university. So this year, I didn't go over it in the actual lessons from the campus, but this year we actually just recognized Michigan State's College of Arts and Letters this year as one of the other campus winners of the Delphi Project or the Delphi Award. And it was really our first time recognizing a college's efforts within the broader university. And what we saw was a college that was deeply committed to being responsive to their vital faculty's unique needs and desires. So the college was able to work collaboratively to accomplish many wins, including remote work arrangements, grant writing support, faculty awards, and even involvement in leadership and school-wide governance. So what was really exciting about what we saw at the College of Arts and Letters is this framework for supporting a vital faculty that can be really easily adopted by other colleges within the university, while also being like loose and flexible enough for these other colleges to make changes based on their unique kind of faculty needs and desires, which was, really nice. And I think it's going to be a new kind of terrain and area for us to really focus on as we think about supports and transformative supports. So where possible, it's going to be really important to zero in on those issues that are occurring within specific departments and schools and begin to address those particular cultures. And then lastly, as many of you know and probably have seen, things like tenure and DEI are under attack in many states like Texas, Florida, Nebraska. Who knows what, Project 2025 might possibly bring. But, just because it may not be happening within your specific state now, it's important to begin thinking about the implications of such attacks on vital faculty if they were to eventually happen. So the thing that, I know I think about a lot in my work is that, we have these kind of restrictive kind of legislative environments that are existing now, but like, what about the vulnerable ones where they're just kind of like waiting for it to happen type of thing? So, you might think about how might you pivot your policies and practices. Are you ready if new legislation was introduced within the next year? These unprecedented times really require us to strategically plan and proof some of our initiatives that are happening on campus. So yes, there are some challenges to this kind of transformative support, but also some new exciting directions that I think are really important for us to name. So my Delphi Project colleagues, Casey Culver and Adriana Kezar, just released this fantastic report about the importance of sustained, rather than kind of sporadic professional development programs for vital faculty. These sustained programs include, faculty learning communities, course transformation and action teams, certificate and badge programs, or even discussion groups. And they're really important and interesting initiatives to implement because they address these kind of unique vital faculty needs while also building the support network that's really necessary to navigate kind of complex and unique challenges that vital faculty face. And they're not just this like, oh, you'll do it, this one Wednesday out of the whole academic year, but they're really things that exist way beyond that, either semesterly or like yearly or things like that. And it's also going to be increasingly important for vital faculty and tenure line faculty to really build solidarity. There's been decades of research that have shown the importance of cross-group solidarity in changing institutional cultures and advancing equitable organizational change. And it's really time that we make that manifest across faculty ranks in higher education, because I think what will happen is, there are obviously unique challenges that these particular groups face, but also, oftentimes we're more alike than we are different when we really dig our claws into what is facing us. And lastly, continuous organizational learning is going to be really important in the coming years. Vital faculty issues and circumstances really change often, sometimes drastically. So institutions will need to always take a pulse of needs and issues facing this group. We can't just really think about it as like, oh, we're going to do this internal institutional research for this particular program, policy, initiative. But this organizational learning should become really deeply embedded, and this type of data that I'm talking about could and should be collected often, even if there's not a distinct kind of like purpose attached to it or an urgent purpose that's attached to it. And institutions, they really have to commit to learning about what other institutions are doing to support vital faculty. And that's where, the Delphi project and the work that we're doing in there is really important and significant. And it's going to be really important to figure out how, if, and to what extent additional supports can be baked into some of the ongoing progress that's being made on campuses. So it doesn't just stop here. There's always more amazing work to do and supports to embed. So I've been talking a lot about Delphi project. We have this amazing database of resources. We really have taken time over the last couple of years to really build out this database and resource hub where you can find numerous reports, guides, toolkits, and case studies to help you better understand issues that we're seeing across the country that vital faculty are facing, and even supports that are happening across the country as well, and even how you can best support them within our higher education ecosystem, wherever you are within the ecosystem. So there really is something for everybody in every institutional type there. So with that being said, thank you all so much for giving me a little slither of your day. I had this tiny URL link that will take you straight to the database that has all of the resources and guides and toolkits and such. If you're interested in learning more about what we're doing at the Pullius Center, and my email's right there if you have any questions for me. And also be sure to check out the other sessions in the series, which I have right here on the slide. So thank you all so much. And I think now we're going to do a little Q&A.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harper, for those insights and perspectives about what's happening at other campuses, but also some challenging thoughts about our own campus. We've already started to get some questions in. If you'd like to participate in our conversation, please add those to the Q&A and we'll get to as many as we can. A great one that's starting is thinking about the trends for professional development. Specifically, a question was around sabbaticals and the type of support that tenured faculty receive that you've found are really great in supporting vital faculty and their role at an institution.
Yeah, so I've shared a couple, right? So there's been a lot of good kind of pedagogical support that vital faculty have been able to really take part in by way of kind of the inclusiveness of opening some of those supports to vital faculty and not just tenure line faculty. And I think the biggest one that we are seeing is that sustained professional development, because what we found in this report, you'll be able to see it actually. We talk about, or they talk about, just the kind of design aspects of, how do you design sustained professional development for vital faculty? But there's also some amazing stuff in there about just different ideas for things that are happening for sustained professional development. And like I kind of alluded to in the initial talk, it's that one of the things that we found is that when it comes to vital faculty, they need time to actually involve themselves in professional development opportunities. And one of the great things about these sustained professional development opportunities is that, there's a specific date, a specific time that works for the majority of the people that are involved in it. And it's something that they can look forward to. It's something that, is not necessarily as structured per se, even thinking about things like discussion groups, or even thinking about, these faculty learning communities. Like there may be kind of topics or themes, but everyone's kind of encouraged to bring their own kind of experiences and thoughts into that space. And again, the beauty of those sustained professional development programs is that people are able to build a kind of network of different vital faculty across the university that they can then tap into for perhaps further professional development or kind of resource sharing or information sharing about best practices for teaching. So I think the most exciting one has really been the sustained professional development. But, things like sabbaticals are great, but also very costly. The institutions that were able to do that as well, again, there was a lot of benefit to it. So there's a lot of different ways for professional development to thrive for vital faculty. But I think ultimately it will come down to like the specific context. So what do vital faculty particularly need within your institutional context? And then, again, back to that idea of drilling down into school and departmental, like what are the things that could happen there that are unique for vital faculty?
Wonderful. There's a wonderful question that's kind of a complement of that in terms of thinking about going beyond supporting the idea of vital faculty. But vital faculty bring a huge range of experience and expertise to the institution, but often because of the classes that we're teaching, and sometimes our workload is 100% teaching. Are there ways that the Delphi Project is seen to bring that expertise to benefit the institution from longstanding vital faculty to help other faculty, either the tenured folks or just the institution doing a better job?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't think we have seen it. I'm sure it's happening, but we haven't necessarily seen it on or within our kind of initiative of the Delphi Award per se. I think the ways that we kind of see vital faculty benefiting the institution over the last couple of years has primarily been through things like shared governance. So making sure that vital faculty kind of have a seat at the kind of decision-making table, a distinct seat, right? Not just, any faculty member can do this, but like we have a vital faculty kind of representative. So we've seen that, and that's the kind of way that we've kind of seen vital faculty give back to the institution in that particular type of way. But when it comes to the teaching aspect of things, even in kind of centers for teaching and learning across many colleges and universities that have taken part in the work that we do in the Delphi Project, it's more often been like, the facilitators within the Center for Teaching and Learning kind of like outwardly sharing to vital faculty, not necessarily vital faculty taking, or standing in front of a room kind of sharing out. But I would love to see more of that because I think it's important, and you're right. You all are teaching a lot more than some other people. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, which, institutions should really lean on.
Well, in our last few moments, I'd like you to look ahead a little bit. That as the Delphi research team has worked, are there a set of things that you would desire to see institutions doing that we haven't got to yet? Where should we be looking in the future?
Yes. Looking into the future, I think that one of the things that we would love to see is just more of the kind of grassroots efforts and the collaborations between grassroots efforts with perhaps institutional efforts. We know from years of research that, grassroots efforts are great. But sometimes they kind of struggle to enact the kind of organizational change that's necessary just because they're kind of happening in these kind of smaller pockets, and there might be a little less kind of formal power, authority, or influence over, what might happen systemically, right? But things like what we saw at University of Delaware, where there's this really strong kind of relationship between the grassroots effort and the faculty senate, really brought out some amazing kind of policy changes and just a different type of culture within the university. So, when we sit down in August and we piece through all these applications, when we see stuff like that, we're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like we really want to uplift this work. And I think there's also there's like more campus context that we would love to see. So like one of the things that we always are thinking about is like we want a more kind of like rural, kind of regional, comprehensive university that's kind of doing that work, to kind of recognize that, because we recognize that systemic supports are great, but also you have to have resources for systemic supports. So we have uplifted University of Arizona, University of Massachusetts Amherst had the resources to do it, and it was done well. But we would also love to kind of see what's happening within other kind of campus contexts too. So that's one of the things that we're always thinking about. And we've even kind of gone back and forth a little bit of like, maybe some years we'll just say we would love, sometimes you like read something like we would love to see applications on, and then it's like a bullet. So we've kind of played with that idea too. But we also don't want to foreclose or shut the door to the other kind of universities and institutional types that are doing this great work.
Well, thank you so much. Your comments have definitely given us not only things to think about, but opportunities to consider as we move forward. As we're closing our presentation, just a few final housekeeping remarks for you. Of course, we want to once again thank Dr. Harper for spending a little bit of time with us today. We could not have done this without an amazing team that the Career Track Faculty Working Group, that the work that was done to receive the Delphi Award in the Office of Faculty Affairs. Of course, Dr. Romero and Adrian for all of the great work that they do every day in supporting career track faculty and with the university broadly. And of course, I'd like to thank all of our participants for being part of our conversation today. With that, as Dr. Harper had a little bit in there, I can't end without giving a little bit of a commercial for our speaker series that coming up in December, that we will have a celebration of career track. We'll look at innovation in the spring as well. Please email and get in further information. With that, I'd like to just hand it over for just a moment to Andrea to have final words and comments as we leave.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. Dr. Harper, that was fantastic. Thank you for kicking off our speaker series. I want to say a special thank you to the faculty who have been on the Career Track Working Group. I don't know if you want to raise your hand or somehow signify if you're still here. I know we had a lot of the people here who've been working on this with us, taking time, and really have been thoughtful about how to use the money from the Delphi Award and choosing the speakers and really wanting to create the visibility across campus for these topics and initiate more discussions. So we're so grateful for all of that. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.